Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Burden here from Board on a Thursday. I'm going to be giving you my weekly Draftkings picks. I've already done a series of podcasts on rankings for season-long teams, but every week I'm going to be giving you my picks for Draftkings. They're the ones I like to use the most. So let's get right into it. A couple news things I want to hit on. Ezekiel Elliott will be active for week 1. So if you had Darren McFadden, get him out of your lineups. The Tampa Bay at Miami game has been postponed. They're going to play that game on week 11 now. So, again, get all of those players that you had from those teams out of your lineups. They will not play this week. And lastly, Thomas Rawls was named starter for Seattle week 1. So, if you are thinking about a cheap option at running back, some guy maybe in a tournament play that could pan out, Thomas Rawls wouldn't be a terrible pick, but I do think it's going to be running back by committee. They're big time. They have a lot of backs to choose from, so I'm not high on any of them. But again, if you're looking for a tournament play, kind of an outlier, he's not a bad option. So let's go ahead and get into it. And the way I break this down is I have tiers. So my high price option, middle price, and then my bargain player for each position. First, Marcus Mariota. He's going to be playing Oakland at home, and last year, weeks 5 through 12, he was the number 1 fantasy player overall. Oakland has not been very good defensively. They ranked in the bottom third against the pass, run, and overall. So I think this is going to be your high-scoring game of the week, and I think Mariota is going to put up huge numbers. Not only is he very consistent as far as not turning the ball over, not throwing picks. In the red zone, he never throws a pick. But he also gets points with his feet, so that's always a plus option for guys you're looking at, especially at this price range. I mean, this is a really low price for him, and I look for him to exceed it. My middle option is Carson Palmer. He's going to Detroit. He's $6,000 right now, and I expect a huge bounce back year for him. A lot of people are going to be kind of iffy on him just because of the way that he played last year. Honestly, he didn't play terrible last year. It was just where people drafted him, he didn't live up to their expectations, so it left some people with a bad taste in their mouth. And I think he has really good weapons around him. Larry Fitzgerald is still playing at a wide receiver 1 level. David Johnson out of the backfield, he's basically a wide receiver 2. And then you got John Brown, a guy that I think has a ton of upside. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back year. And not to mention the fact that Detroit was ranked second to last versus quarterbacks last year on Draftkings. So those are some reasons why I'm really big on Carson Palmer, and I'll probably play him more than any other player at quarterback this week. My bargain pick, and a pick that I'll use for some tournaments and just some leagues here and there, is Brian Hoyer from San Francisco. He's playing Carolina. Carolina's going to have to travel cross country to go to San Francisco to play this one. Hoyer at 5,100 this week. That is a absolute steal for a starting quarterback in the NFL, especially with a good matchup like Carolina. Carolina was 29th versus the pass last season, so they're not exactly the lockdown defense that they've been before. And the 4 starts that he had, all 4 of those starts that he finished the game, one of them he got injured, but he had over 300 yards passing. He finished the season 6 touchdowns, no picks. So, again, a very consistent guy. He's never had any huge options on offense where he's been. So I think they're going to be playing from behind, and those garbage points count just as much as any other. So I think he's going to have plenty of chances to throw it around and score you some of those late garbage points that has made Blake Bortles fantasy relevant the last 2 years. So going to running backs, I like DeMarco Murray. If you're looking at the 2 top options, of course, David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell, they're going to produce for you too, but they're at least $2,000 more than DeMarco Murray. So if you're looking to get a guy that I think is going to give you similar value in their matchup, I like DeMarco Murray. And again, you're saving $2,000 by playing him ahead of those guys. Oakland, again, struggled against the run last year. Weeks 1 through 10, DeMarco Murray only had 1 game that was under 20 points, so he always starts the season really well. And then last year they played Oakland. He had 16 carries, 114 yards, and a touchdown, and he also got 5 receptions for 41 to finish with 29.5 fantasy points on Draftkings. That was his second best game of the year fantasy-wise. So I think he has another big matchup. They love to give him the rock. I don't think it's going to be even close to a split or anything like that with Henry back there. So feel confident with DeMarco Murray. My middle price range, this is more of a gut feeling that they're going to go out of their way to make Todd Gurley successful this year. Right now, he's going for $6,000. They're playing Indy. Indy has a terrible run defense, has for years. I just have a feeling that Todd Gurley is going to be a guy that they're going to consistently feed the ball to. They're going to try to get him more involved in the passing game as well. And I think their offense is going to be better. I think Jared Goff's going to be better than he was last year. Can't be much worse. But I'm high on Todd Gurley this week, especially because of the matchup. And my bargain pick, I will have Bilal Powell in every single lineup I have this week. He's playing at Buffalo, going for $4,900. And Buffalo was 29th versus the run last year. In the final 4 games of the season, which is when he was actually the starter, he was the second highest scoring running back in fantasy. He gets a ton of points. Not only does he do well on the ground, but in the passing game, he's very consistent with losing Eric Decker, losing Brandon Marshall, Quincy Enunwa. They're going to be looking for guys to catch the ball, and Bilal Powell is the most consistent option they have. It could be an ugly game, but I do think he's still going to get his touches, and he's going to outperform his price point for sure. Last year, in the game that he started against Buffalo, he had 22 attempts, 122 yards, 3 receptions, and a touchdown. So play him with confidence this week. I think he's going to have a big day, and I think he's going to have a great season. I actually have him in my main league that I do with friends, and I'm really high on him this year. Not the sexiest pick in the world, but he does get high production for his value, for his price point. Receiver-wise, of the top price receivers, I'm most confident in Julio Jones. He's going to Chicago. $8,500 is his price. Last year, over 1,600 yards receiving. Chicago was 25th versus receivers last year. Atlanta will run it up any chance they get, trying to get that Super Bowl taste out of their mouth. And I just think that Julio, the other teams like Antonio Brown with Pittsburgh, Odell Beckham now has Brandon Marshall. Their offense has so many different options. And receiving wise, I think Julio Jones is the only guy there that's really going to consistently put up big numbers. So that's why I'm picking him this week as my top high price option at receiver. Middle price option, Michael Crabtree. I actually like him better than Amari Cooper this year. He's going to be playing at Tennessee. Again, I can't emphasize how confident I am that this is going to be the highest scoring game of the week. He's going for $6,000. Last 2 years, he has outproduced Amari Cooper in targets, receptions, especially red zone targets. He gets way more looks in the red zone. I just think he's more consistent, a safer play, and he's going to be cheaper than Amari Cooper. Tennessee last year was also 30th in the league versus the pass. And last year when Oakland played Tennessee, Crabtree went 8 receptions for 102 yards. Also, the fact that he's on the road doesn't affect him because he played way better on the road last year than he did at home. Fantasy-wise on Draftkings, he averaged 5 more points a game than he did at home. So again, I don't think that playing on the road is going to affect him negatively in any way. My last guy is John Brown from Arizona, $4,800. Lowest price you'll get him all year. I'm looking to stack him and Carson Palmer, and I'll get in that in a minute. I just think that's a great stack option. He's looked really good this preseason. Last game he had 2 touchdowns, and I think one of them was like a 60-yarder. So they're going to try to get him more involved in the offense this year. They know he had a down year. This is a really good play in tournaments where you can save some money, put that money in other avenues as far as if you want to get some of those high-priced guys like Bell or David Johnson. This is a good way to do that. And again, this is another game that I think is going to be high scoring. I could see them throwing it around a lot, both teams. I just like Arizona's options better than Detroit's. At tight end, Jimmy Graham is going against the worst passing defense in the league last year. He's priced at $5,100. I don't typically like to spend a lot of money on tight ends and daily. I just think there's a lot of value you can find later at lower price ranges. But if I had to pick one, it'd be Jimmy Graham. Him and Russell Wilson really started to get it going last year. I think that continues it again. And Green Bay was not good against the tight end last year. Their pass defense has struggled for years. I think that continues. So of the top options, I think he's the best bet you're going to have at the top tiers. So my middle price option, this guy is going to be probably the most owned player for any position in fantasy this week. Is Zach Ertz. He is going at 3,500, which is criminally low for his production. He's going against Washington, who was 29th versus tight ends last year. And the game that I believe was the last game that they played Washington, he got 10 receptions for 112 yards. So he's had success against them in the past. It's not a bad pickup, but if you're playing in a tournament and maybe it's a guy that you don't want to lose points on, you put him in. But if you're looking for an advantage somewhere, then maybe not Zach Ertz, because I think everybody's going to own him. He's going to have a really high ownerage rate this week. So my bargain pick is actually a guy that I'm starting in my yearly league, and that's Evan Ingram against Dallas, 2,900. I just think that Dallas's defense is really going to be down this year. I really like Evan Ingram. When he was at Ole Miss, he's really explosive. He's just a huge matchup nightmare for defenses because they can just put him anywhere on the field. I think that Odell Beckham isn't 100%, so I think that's going to cut into his production a little bit. They don't have a running game, or I haven't seen one during preseason. So look for Evan Ingram to have a big game against Dallas. He's actually the guy I'm targeting in a lot of my tournament plays. So defense, this is where all the defenses are pretty much priced, at around the same. But if you're looking for some high price option, the Texans going against Jacksonville, I just think emotionally they're going to be really amped up. If this game is played in Houston, which I'm not sure if it's going to be, I haven't heard that it's not going to be played in Houston, but if you remember when New Orleans had their game after Hurricane Katrina, I just think that place is going to be rocking. Blake Bortles is always good for a couple picks, so you can't go wrong with Texans defense. And of the top tier defenses this week, I'm most confident in them. The Falcons going at Chicago. I don't see Chicago having a very good offense this year. Again, I'm just confident that the Falcons are going to be on a mission. I could be totally wrong on that, but I just think that they are going to really try to push the envelope and try to show people that they're not going to have one of those slumps after a Super Bowl loss that other teams seem to have. And my bargain is 49ers against Carolina, 2,100. You're saving a ton of money. Carolina, again, going cross country. Sometimes those games can be really sloppy, and if it's one of those situations, Cam Newton last year really struggled. I think the 49ers have a chance to turn him over a couple times, and I don't think they'll win the game, but it could be one of those sloppy, low-scoring games, and in that case, 2,100, it would take almost nothing to meet that in value. Quarterback, wide receiver stacks, I've got Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald, but I actually like John Brown a little bit more in that matchup. So either one of those guys, again, John Brown is 4,800. They're playing at Detroit. Sam Bradford, Stephon Diggs, both of these guys Sam Bradford for quarterbacks is really low priced, and then Stephon Diggs, for the amount of touches he could get and looks, he gets a lot of looks. He could have a big day. The only thing I'm a little worried about is Arizona has a really good secondary. So if you're looking for a kind of an unconventional pick, look at Minnesota to put up some numbers. Again, this would be my riskiest of the three. And then, of course, Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin at Green Bay. Again, another high-scoring game. 6,900 for Wilson, 6,700 for Doug Baldwin. Thanks, guys, for checking out the episode this week. You can catch us on our website, boardonthursday.com, Twitter @BoardSports, and Instagram, BoardThursChris. I know that's really confusing, but again, I'll be doing this every week. Let me know in the comments which picks you like, which ones you think are terrible, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.